where complex AI gets clear. Welcome to AI Relativity. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
Welcome back.
So this is the deep dive. It's where we take all that source material you've gathered, the articles, the notes, whatever it is, and we really, dig in. We pull out the core insights, the important bits, just for you.
Exactly. Think of us as guides cutting through the noise to get to what really matters from the info you provide. We try to find those nuggets.
And today we're diving into something that definitely got people talking, maybe even a little let down.
Yeah.
We're looking at Apple's strategy, specifically their AI approach, as unveiled at WWDC 2025.
Yeah, and the source material we're working from is this really detailed analysis that tries to look past the immediate reactions, It deconstructs what Apple was really up to.
Because, let's be honest, the initial buzz, from a lot of places anyway, was that WWDC felt kind of, underwhelming is the word used a lot, especially compared to the big AI splashes others are making.
And that perception, that initial underwhelming feeling, is exactly our starting point. Our mission today is figure out, was it just a quiet year for Apple AI? Or, as this analysis suggests, was it actually a really calculated first move in a much longer game? What should you, the listener, really take away from it all?
Okay, let's jump in. So according to this analysis, that feeling of being, underwhelming or low-key, it was definitely real. The event felt much more about refining platforms, polishing things up, rather than dropping those huge, game-changing AI features.
Right, not the big generative AI bombshells maybe people were geared up for. And the source analysis points out a key reason for that feeling. Apple themselves acknowledged delays on some big AI promises, especially around Siri, things they'd hyped up before.
Yeah, that's a big piece. So if the main AI event is postponed, you've got this gap in the narrative. Right. And Apple seemed to fill that void with something very visual, something that definitely got tongues wagging. This massive design overhaul called Liquid Glass.
Yes, Liquid Glass. The source calls it Apple's broadest design update ever. And they weren't kidding, it's everywhere. iOS 26, macOS Tahoe 26, iPadOS 26, watchOS 26, even visionOS 26, universal application.
And the look itself, it's this translucent software-based material. It refracts light, reflects content underneath.
Yeah.
The stated goal is about enhancing focus, making things feel more fluid. And crucially, it's their first proper universal design language across the whole ecosystem.
And the reaction, well, the source says it was instant and pretty sharply divided. You had people immediately comparing it to Windows Vista's old Aero Glass look.
Oh yeah, the Aero comparison was everywhere.
Definitely. And terms like ugly, unreadable, visual downgrade were thrown around. Accessibility concerns popped up right away. And of course, competitors like Samsung jumped online to, poke fun.
Yeah, saw those posts. Sleek glass UI looks familiar, something like that. A little bit of shade thrown. But this is where the analysis we're looking at starts to dig deeper. It proposes liquid glass wasn't just about looks. It maybe served as a kind of strategic shock absorber.
A strategic shock absorber. That's an interesting way to put it. Meaning it was pushed front and center deliberately to maybe soak up attention, divert from the lack of big AI news.
That's the idea. Help Apple control the story coming out of the event. Get everyone debating the design instead of just hammering on about the delayed AI.
But the analysis takes it even further. It argues Liquid Glass is actually deeply inspired by visionOS, the Vision Pro software, and that it's a calculated play to start conditioning users, and maybe more importantly developers, for spatial computing.
Conditioning them? How so?
By subtly blurring the lines, between the flat 2D interfaces we're used to and a more 3D layered look and feel. It's laying groundwork, getting people accustomed to depth and translucency, potentially paving the way for future AR glasses.
Huh. So what looks like just a controversial redesign could actually be a really long-term strategic setup, preparing the ground for AR.
It's fascinating, right? Taking something usually discussed in terms of aesthetics and framing it as this foundational move towards augmented reality.
Okay, so the big visual change might be more strategic than it first appears. But let's circle back to that missing piece, the delayed AI. What exactly got pushed back?
Well, the biggest omission, according to the source, was that fully realized, context-aware, proactive Siri, the version they talked up pretty heavily back at WWDC 2024.
Right, that was the dream, wasn't it? Siri understanding your personal stuff, knowing what's on your screen, actually doing complex things across different apps for you, like a real AI assistant baked into the system.
And Apple's official reason, from Craig Federighi. Pretty standard stuff.
Yep.
It needed more time to reach our high-quality bar. They promised more info in the coming year.
In the coming year. Heard that one before.
Yeah.
But the insider info cited in this analysis suggests, well, it suggests the delays might be more serious. Potentially pushing these features into spring 2026, maybe with an iOS 26.4 update, or possibly even later. Maybe 2027 isn't out of the question.
Which really begs the question, why such a big delay for something so central to their whole AI push? The source dives into what it calls profound engineering challenges. Specifically, it mentions a buggy hybrid architecture.
A hybrid architecture, meaning
Trying to merge the old Siri system with the new large language model tech, like the stuff powering ChatGPT and similar systems. Apparently, this mashup, it just wasn't reliable. It was failing frequently.
failing like how often?
The source suggests maybe a third of the time. Wait,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
that's not shippable.
Yeah.
And apparently, these issues caused some real internal friction, maybe even organizational changes within Apple's AI teams. Leadership shakeups were reported.
Wow. And the source even mentions a lawsuit alleging false advertising. Because these delayed features were so hyped, they might have influenced purchase decisions.
Yeah, that's in there too. But the core argument the analysis makes is that the real difficulty isn't just a technical glitch. It's a fundamental clash between Apple's whole privacy-first philosophy and the immense complexity of building a truly agentic AI, an AI that can act on your behalf using your private data.
Because letting an AI see all your personal stuff and giving it the power to do things, draft emails, buy things, interact with apps, that creates a massive security risk. The source calls it an unprecedented attack surface.
Exactly that. Think about it. If your AI agent is reading your emails, what happens if it gets a sophisticated phishing email? If that AI has tools to interact with your apps, could that malicious email trick the AI into doing something harmful? That's called a prompt injection attack.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's genuinely scary. Your own AI assistant weaponized against you by a spam email.
And this is where Apple's approach differs, right? Competitors might iterate more quickly in the cloud, where maybe the privacy implications are handled differently or aren't as deeply integrated at the OS level. But Apple has to solve these huge security and privacy problems before they ship something like this. That high-quality bar Federighi mentioned. The analysis suggests it's really about building an impenetrable fortress of safety and privacy around this agentic AI.
And the delays suggest they might have underestimated just how tough that fortress is to build.
It seems plausible. It's a monumental challenge, especially given their architecture.
Okay, makes sense. So the big all-knowing Siri is delayed because making it powerful and bulletproof safe on Apple's terms is proving really, really hard. But they did ship some AI stuff at WWDC, what actually landed in iOS 26 and the other OS updates.
Right, and this is where the source's view of Apple's strategy comes into focus. What did ship is presented as a very deliberate strategy of incremental infiltration.
Incremental infiltration. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's about pragmatically embedding useful AI features into the things people already do, rather than waiting for that one big AI agent or risking its release before it's ready.
So not a single explosion of AI, but more like AI seeping into the existing experience.
Precisely. Making everyday tasks a bit smarter, a bit easier. The source gives some good examples, like in communication, you've got live translation built right into phone calls, FaceTime, messages. There's AI call screening. That hold assist feature seems genuinely useful, telling you when the person on hold is actually back.
Well, I could use that.
Right. And even little things like AI suggesting polls in group messages. Then for productivity, visual intelligence got expanded. It now works on screenshots, kind of like Android's Circle to Search.
Okay, yeah.
Spotlight Search got AI-powered workflow suggestions. Shortcuts can use AI for more complex tasks now. And the system can supposedly auto-create reminders from things it spots in your emails or notes.
But it wasn't just productivity, right? There was stuff for creativity and health, too.
Yeah. Yep. An AI workout buddy on the Apple Watch for personalized coaching. Enhancements to Genmoji and the Image Playground app like mixing emojis or deeper ChatGPT integration for image creation. Plus, crucially, they expanded Apple Intelligence support to 8 more languages, making it accessible to many more users.
It feels like a different approach than just throwing features at the wall.
Exactly. The source contrasts this with what it calls competitor AI feature bloat. Apple's method is described more like subtraction and integration. Features like hold assist or maybe notification summaries, they aren't flashy standalone apps you need to learn. They're woven into existing tasks, almost invisibly making them better, reducing friction.
So you don't consciously think, I'm using AI now. Your phone just feels Smarter,
Yeah.
less annoying, maybe.
That seems to be the goal. And the strategic upside, according to the analysis, it reinforces the value of the operating system itself. It makes your iPhone or Mac inherently smarter, more valuable, not just a box holding third-party AI apps. It's it's very Apple. Tight integration into the core experience.
Okay, let's take a quick pause here. Just a reminder, if you're finding this deep dive insightful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It really helps others find the show.
Please do. All right, so we've got the design as maybe a strategic distraction, the big AI brain delayed due to these privacy and security hurdles and these smaller, useful AI features infiltrating existing workflows. What's actually powering this stuff? The source talks about the tech foundation being a kind of strategic moat.
Right, the silicon, the models.
Exactly. Apple Intelligence uses a hybrid system. There's a fairly small foundation model, around 3 billion parameters apparently, that runs right there on your device. That's for speed and obviously privacy. But for heavier lifting, it can securely send tasks to a larger model running on what they call Apple's private cloud compute, or PCC.
And the analysis really emphasizes that these AI models are specifically tailored for Apple silicon.
Right.
This is that vertical integration advantage. They always talk about designing the chips and the AI models together.
It's absolutely critical to their strategy. It lets them get impressive performance and efficiency out of these smaller on-device models, things competitors might need bigger cloud-based models for. They're really playing to their strength of controlling the hardware.
And that private cloud compute part, the privacy promise is key there. The source stresses that your data isn't stored, Apple can't see it, it's just processed for that specific request and then disappears.
Yeah, that's the guarantee. The source briefly mentions some specific tech innovations, things like KV cache sharing for efficiency on device, or PTMOE for scaling the server models. You don't need to sweat the acronyms, but the point is, this is custom-built stuff optimized for their hardware and their privacy model. It's not off-the-shelf AI.
And because it's tied so tightly to the hardware, it creates this compounding advantage, right? As Apple silicon evolves M4, M5 chips, whatever comes next, the on-device AI should get significantly better, widening that performance gap.
Absolutely. The engine improves, and the custom AI running on it gets a direct boost.
Okay, so design, delay, incremental features, the tech stack, we've covered a lot. But the analysis we're working from pinpoints something else as the most important, the most consequential announcement from WWDC 2025. It calls it Apple's true AI moment. And surprisingly, it wasn't really a consumer feature at all.
No, it was all about the developers. This is the foundation models framework. Essentially, Apple is giving its huge developer community direct programming access to that powerful, private, on-device AI model. And the kicker, this access is free.
Hold on. Free access for developers to run powerful AI models directly on the user's device at no cost per query. That sounds like a really big deal. The source calls it a bona fide game changer.
It potentially is. Think about the economics. Because running the AI, the inference is free for the developer and thus free for the end user, it completely changes what's possible. Developers can build sophisticated private offline AI features into their apps without ballooning the app size too much or worrying about ongoing cloud costs. It massively lowers the barrier to entry for adding serious AI smarts.
And they made it easy to use, too.
Apparently so. Native Swift support means developers can tap into it with just a few lines of code in some cases. And the source highlights something called guided generation as particularly innovative.
Guided generation.
Yeah, it uses a special command, like an @generable macro in Swift. It lets the AI model output structured data directly, like a properly formatted list or JSON that the app can immediately use. This avoids the really tricky, often unreliable process of trying to parse plain text responses from an LLM, which is a major headache with other APIs. It should make building reliable AI features much, much faster.
That sounds incredibly useful for developers. And there was tool calling, too.
Right. Letting developers define specific functions within their own app that the AI can then call upon, so the AI can actually interact with the app's data or trigger specific actions based on what the user asks.
Okay. And this is alongside other developer stuff like Xcode getting AI coding assistance and App Intents letting third-party app info surface in AI-powered system searches.
Exactly. It's a whole suite of tools aimed squarely at the developer ecosystem. And this focus, the source argues, is Apple's long-term solution to a really fundamental business problem, the hardware upgrade incentive.
Ah, right. Why buy a new iPhone every year if the old one still feels fine?
Precisely. Apple knows they can't build the single killer AI app that appeals to everyone. Their user base is just too massive and diverse. But what if they empower, say, 500,000 developers with these powerful free AI tools? They're essentially outsourcing the creation of, well, the source calls it, a million different killer features.
Okay, I see where this is going. A developer makes an amazing AI-powered photo editing tool, or a medical app that uses AI for diagnostics, or a personalized tutor. Things Apple itself would never build into iOS.
Exactly. Highly specialized, potentially indispensable apps for specific niches or professions. And guess what? These cutting-edge AI apps, leveraging the latest on-device models, will inevitably run best, or maybe only fully, on the newest Apple silicon, the latest neural engine in the iPhone 17, or the M5 chip in the next Macs.
So it creates this natural, ongoing reason for people to upgrade their hardware. Not just for Apple's own features, but because the third-party apps they love and rely on are getting supercharged by AI and need the latest tech.
It's organic upgrade pressure, a classic platform strategy. Turn a software framework into a driver for perpetual hardware sales. It's definitely thinking several moves ahead.
Wow. That reframes the whole developer focus. It also helps define Apple's competitive stance, doesn't it? How does the source see Apple positioned against others now?
Yeah, the analysis contrasts them. Samsung, for instance, currently looks like the feature-rich powerhouse in consumer AI. They've got stuff like real-time call translation that Apple doesn't have yet, more generative photo editing features, broader device support, and they're not shy about mocking Apple's delays. Apple, by comparison, is positioned as more focused and privacy-centric.
And versus Google.
Google is seen as having immense underlying cloud AI power with Gemini, but maybe still figuring out how to integrate it seamlessly across their ecosystem. They often show impressive prototypes, Project Mariner, Project Astra, but Apple's approach feels more conservative and incremental in terms of what's actually shipping widely today.
So Apple's banking on different strengths.
Exactly. The analysis points to privacy with PCC, deep ecosystem integration, and now, crucially, what they argue is a leading developer platform for on-device AI via the foundation models framework. Those are Apple's chosen differentiators.
Where does the OpenAI partnership, integrating ChatGPT, fit into that?
The source sees it as a smart, necessary tactical maneuver. It plugs immediate gaps in Apple's own capabilities, like powering parts of Image Playground or certain complex shortcuts. But it's also flagged as a potential long-term risk, this idea of strategic drift, by relying on a third party for key AI functions.
The core argument is that this partnership enables Apple's bigger strategy.
Yes. The analysis argues Apple made a calculated decision. They are consciously not trying to win the race to build the absolute biggest, most generally knowledgeable LLM. They're letting others fight that battle. Apple's internal focus, where they believe they can win, is a personal intelligence war.
Being the expert on me and my stuff, my data, my photos, my calendar, what's literally on my screen right now.
Precisely. That's the domain where Apple has a unique, defensible advantage because they control the hardware, the OS, and the privacy framework. The OpenAI partnership lets them essentially rent general world knowledge from ChatGPT when a user asks a broad question, while Apple focuses on owning the much more valuable and sticky layer of personal context.
So give up one fight to win another, more strategic one, a calculated concession in one battle to win a different, more profitable war, as the source puts it.
That's the interpretation. It really shifts how you might view WWDC 2025. It wasn't underwhelming strategically, according to this analysis. It was pivotal, a deliberate pivot away from a short-term feature race, which, frankly, they might be losing right now towards building this long-term, potentially unassailable platform advantage based on developers, privacy, and that hardware-software integration.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this all up based on the source's outlook. What's the forecast? What should we be watching for?
All right, short-term thinking, the next 12, maybe 18 months. Expect the criticism about Apple's AI feature gap compared to, say, Samsung or Google to continue. The really important thing to watch, though, isn't just Apple's own announcements. It's developer adoption. Are they really using that foundation models framework? What cool stuff starts emerging? That's the key metric. And, of course, that iOS 26.4 update next spring, that's the next big checkpoint for those delayed Siri features.
Okay, and medium term, say 2 to 3 years out.
That's when the analysis suggests the impact of this developer strategy should really start to bite. We should see genuinely new, intelligent apps that you can't get elsewhere, apps that make you want that new iPhone 17 or M5 Mac. Apple's lead in personal intelligence, understanding your context, should hopefully become much more apparent then.
And looking further out, long term, 3 to 5 years.
The prediction is that the lines between Apple's operating systems will blur even further. It's all groundwork for ambient computing, for AR glasses. Apple's AI won't just be reactive, it'll become more proactive, more environmental, seamlessly working across all your devices and maybe even your physical surroundings.
Wow. Okay, quite a journey from underwhelming WWDC to potentially reshaping computing.
Yeah.
So boiling it all down, what are the absolute key takeaways for you, the listener, from this whole deep dive?
Okay, takeaway number 1, WWDC 2025 wasn't strategically underwhelming, even if the immediate consumer features felt light to some. Its significance is in the long-term platform play.
Number 2, that big Siri delay. It's real, it's complex, and it's fundamentally tied to the massive challenge of making truly powerful AI safe and private the Apple way on their architecture.
Third, the AI features that are shipping now in iOS 26, think of them as incremental infiltration. Subtle but useful improvements woven into things you already do, not big, flashy AI apps.
Fourth, and this seems critical based on the analysis, the real revolution Apple is betting on long-term is empowering developers with that free, private, on-device foundation models framework. Watch that space.
And finally, number 5, Apple is picking its AI fight carefully. They're aiming to win the personal intelligence war, being the expert on you and your context by leveraging their unique strengths in hardware, software, privacy, and their developer ecosystem. They're deliberately not just trying to build the biggest general-purpose chatbot.
That really does put a different spin on things. It moves the narrative from Apple's behind to maybe Apple's playing a different game altogether.
It makes you question what leading in AI really means. Is it the model with the most parameters, or the system that integrates most seamlessly and privately into your actual life?
It's a great point, and it leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. Given this focus on empowering developers with these private, on-device tools, what kinds of truly personal AI apps could emerge in the next few years? How might they genuinely change how you use your phone or computer? And ultimately, how much do you value that deep private integration versus just raw AI power? Something to think about.
Definitely something to mull over.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Apple's WWDC 2025 strategy and what our source analysis suggests it really means for the future.
We hope this gave you a clearer, maybe more nuanced perspective beyond those initial headlines.
Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for listening to AI Relativity, where complex AI gets clear.